Roger Sinclair was 3 inches away from $60 million and freedom. He could already taste the champagne, cheap, tacky, glorious freedom-flavored champagne. His fingers twitched on the smooth leather chair as he smiled politely across the penthouse meeting table, legs crossed like a man at peace. On the outside? Calm. On the inside? Confetti cannons. A fake marriage to Angela Sterling, the infamous Ice Queen CEO of Sterling Holt, was supposed to be the worst year of his life. Turned out, it wasn't so bad when your wife was rich, gorgeous, emotionally unavailable, and almost never home. All he had to do was attend charity galas, pretend he wasn't a glorified house pet, and keep his mouth shut. Easy money. And now, payday. Roger glanced down at the 2 neatly prepared divorce documents, his name already signed in smooth, looping penmanship. Angela hadn't spoken a word since she walked in. Typical, not even a farewell glare, just cold elegance in a cream pantsuit that probably cost more than his college tuition. He didn't mind the silence, in fact, he welcomed it. Fewer chances to screw this up, just one more signature from her, and he'd be out of this designer cage. 3, 2, 1. He mentally counted down as she picked up the pen with her usual robotic grace. Freedom. 60 million wired straight into his Cayman account. Goodbye, sterile penthouse. Goodbye, emotionless dinners. Goodbye to being the punchline of every kept man joke whispered at boardroom brunches. Angela's pen hovered. Her fingers stilled. Then, she put the pen down. Roger blinked. Was this a power play, some twisted CEO drama? She lifted her gaze, slow and sharp as glass. Eyes locked on his. Unreadable, unblinking. And then she spoke, flat and lethal. The contract's extended. We're not getting divorced. Roger's spine went stiff. His first instinct? Laugh, out loud. Surely she was joking. But Angela Sterling didn't joke. She didn't smirk. She didn't even flinch. Roger said brilliantly, voice cracking like a teenager caught with a sock in his hand. I'm sorry, what? Her eyes were cold steel. You heard me. The room felt 5 degrees colder. His internal fireworks died with a whimper. No divorce? That wasn't part of the script. Was this about the wine? No way, he triple-checked. Just enough valerian root to give her a headache, not enough to set off alarms. He only did it so she'd miss the board vote. The payout clause had a loophole. If she skipped, he walked richer. That's it. Harmless. Unless she knew. His chest tightened. He forced a smirk. What changed, Angie? Don't tell me you're gonna miss me sleeping till noon and turning your marble kitchen into a ramen lab? Silence. Then, slowly, she stood. Not towering, not dramatic. Just deliberate. You'll be moving back into the master bedroom, she said, walking past him like he was part of the furniture. What? He stammered, rising to follow. Pack your things, she added without turning around. We have a dinner event tonight. Roger's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, like a fish trying to process tax fraud. Why wasn't she looking at him? Why wasn't she furious? He should have been relieved, but all he felt was exposed. Angela paused at the glass doors, one heel clicking. Her voice dropped, not cold, but quiet. You really thought I'd let you walk out? Now? Then she left. And for the first time since their sham wedding, Roger wasn't sure who was being played. It all started with a text message that read like a scam. 1 year, $60 million, marry Angela Sterling, no physical contact required, NDA mandatory. Roger had laughed so hard, he dropped his phone in his cereal. Back then, he was crashing on his cousin's sofa, living off energy drinks and rejected freelance scripts. His most successful pitch had been a cat food jingle. He had student loans, a broken air fryer, and no will to suffer capitalism the traditional way. So when a man in a gray suit showed up at his gym, the public library where he used the bathroom and free Wi-Fi, and handed him a sleek black envelope with the Sterling Holt logo, Roger thought it was either a prank or a sting. It wasn't. Angela Sterling, the youngest CEO in the luxury tech empire's history, wanted a husband, a temporary one. Purely contractual, her assistant had said. You will not touch her, you will not speak to the media, you will be compensated to appear competent and companionable in public for 1 calendar year. Roger had blinked at the amount on the contract. $60 million. In exchange for a silent marriage, background smiles, and not pissing off the board of shareholders who were obsessed with her being humanized. He'd signed before the ink dried. The first month of marriage, Roger had launched Operation Get Dumped Early. If she wanted a fake husband, fine, he'd become the clingiest, most unbearable nightmare. He bombarded her with good morning texts like, "Wakey wakey, wife of mine, how's my frosty queen doing today?" She replied, "Thriving, meeting at 8, wear a dark suit," not even a blink. He, accidentally, used her imported bath oils on the dog he rescued. He made pasta at 3 a.m. with trap music on full blast. He left his socks, on purpose, on her pristine marble kitchen counter. Nothing. One time he fake snored during a dinner with Japanese investors just to see if she'd twitch. She didn't. She placed her hand calmly over his and smiled at the board. This is Roger, he believes dinner should be theatrical. I find it refreshing. Refreshing? What kind of robot was this woman? But then came the gala. The one where he overheard 3 bored wives whispering behind crystal flutes. She found him on Craigslist. He looks like a pool boy in a tux. She should have married Austin, he's at least Ivy League. Roger was ready to play dumb, smile through it, he'd been insulted before, no big deal. Until Angela, without missing a beat, turned to them and said, "Roger has a degree in systems engineering and a portfolio that helped me triple our acquisition strategy, but you're right, he is prettier than Austin." The wives blinked. Roger choked on his champagne. He didn't have a degree, not officially, and he never told her about the data mockups he'd secretly fixed after she left her laptop open. How did she know? Their first genuine moment cracked the glass just a bit. It was 4 months in. Roger came home, well, to her home, and found her curled on the floor in her hallway, blazer discarded, cheeks flushed, eyes glazed. Her phone was on the floor, forgotten. She didn't move when he called her name. Angela Sterling, who ran a billion-dollar firm without blinking, was burning with fever and didn't even notice. He didn't think. He carried her to the bed, fetched water, Googled the dosage on her medication, sat by her side while she mumbled about board reports and client deadlines in her sleep. When she woke up, he offered a shaky smile. "If I catch your cold, I'm billing you for tissues." She blinked. "You stayed?" Roger shrugged, avoiding her eyes. "Couldn't leave my paycheck melting on the floor." But the corners of her lips curved, soft, real. "Thank you," she whispered, voice hoarse. Something shifted after that. His texts, she responded faster. He caught her watching him once, when he was laughing at a stupid dog video in the kitchen. Just, standing there, coffee in hand, watching him. She never commented on the mess anymore. In fact, she once brought home a second pillow and dropped it on the couch beside his with a barely audible, "Thought you'd like the firmer kind." At parties, she started placing her hand on his arm, a light touch. For the cameras, she claimed. But when Austin came by at one fundraiser, perfect hair, smug smile, and a comment about Roger's unemployed charm, Angela shut it down with one sentence, "I prefer someone who's honest over someone who hides behind suits and statistics." Austin never came back. Roger began to get nervous. He'd signed up for a fake marriage with boundaries, not a slow, confusing journey into whatever this was. He caught himself remembering how she took her coffee, how she used music to focus, how her walls were always up, etc. Pete in the seconds between 2 a.m. and dawn when she'd sometimes sit beside him on the couch, watching documentaries without saying a word. And the worst part? He liked it. He liked her. Even her weird robotic way of asking, "Will you be accompanying me to the partner gala Thursday?" Which meant, "Can we go together?" He hated how his heart jumped every time she looked at him just a second too long. There was one night, when she'd come back from a disastrous acquisition meeting in New York. She looked exhausted, defeated. He poured her a drink, handed her a blanket, and said nothing. Minutes passed. Then she spoke. "Do you think I'm difficult to love?" Roger didn't look at her. "I think most people are just too lazy to try." Silence. Then a whisper. "And you?" He met her eyes. "I'm still figuring that out." Now, staring at the unsigned divorce papers in that silent penthouse, Roger realized something terrifying. He wanted to leave, but he also didn't. Because somewhere along the line, Angela Sterling, robotic, cold, untouchable, had become the only person who looked at him like he wasn't a joke, and he didn't know when the pretending stopped. All he knew now was, she wasn't pretending anymore. Roger stared at the divorce papers, still unsigned. The ink from Angela's pen had stopped just before her full name. The curve of the A was sharp, clean, intentional, just like her. The contract's extended, she had said with that voice, smooth and measured, as if she were discussing quarterly earnings and not the fate of his entire life. "We're not getting divorced." And then she left the room. No discussion, no negotiation, just a dropped bomb and the echo of her heels clicking down the marble hallway. Roger sat in the silence of their penthouse, staring at the paper. The chair beneath him might as well have been 1,000 pounds. His head spun. He had been so close to freedom, the payout, the exit, the fresh start. He was already planning his next life, somewhere warm and irresponsible, maybe a bar by the coast, or freelance gigs on a beach. No suits, no gala smiles, no waking up beside a woman who treated him like a press release. But now he was still Roger Sterling, the fake husband, the background prop. Only this time, he didn't know if she was using him for image, or something else. "I missed you," Rebecca said gently, nudging a mug of coffee toward him across the table. He blinked, trying to come back to earth. They were sitting in a quiet bookstore cafe downtown, somewhere with mismatched furniture and the smell of cinnamon. "I missed you too," he replied automatically. Rebecca smiled. Her chestnut hair was tied in a messy bun, and she wore the same soft lavender sweater she always used when it rained. Her presence was warm, uncomplicated. She was everything Angela wasn't. "I thought once the contract was over," Rebecca started, but stopped herself. "Well, I thought maybe you'd finally be you again." Roger stared at his cup. Rebecca had been his friend since college. She knew the broke version of him, the sarcastic loser who made terrible coffee and lag. He'd at his own bad jokes. She'd seen his heartbreaks, his desperation. She never looked at him like he was less. "I'm still me," Roger murmured. "Are you?" she asked softly. Something in him cracked. Before he could reply, he caught a glimpse, across the street, near the bookstore window. Angela. Standing by a black car, bodyguard in tow, perfectly still. Watching. She didn't blink, didn't wave, just stared. Then turned and got into the car. Gone. Rebecca didn't notice, but Roger couldn't breathe for a moment. No expression, no anger, no accusation, just a look. It meant nothing, and yet everything. Later that night, Roger heard the office door close softly. Angela always worked late, but tonight, something in her step sounded tired. He peeked from the hallway and found her sitting at her desk, still in her heels, rubbing her temples. She looked smaller than usual, not fragile. Angela Sterling was never fragile, but worn. "Bad day?" he asked, casually leaning on the frame. She didn't look up. "Someone's leaking internal memos to the press." Roger's smile faded. "Sabotage?" She nodded once. "Data projections, budget estimates. I confronted marketing. They all denied it." "You think it's Austin?" Silence. Then. "He knows how to appear loyal. That makes him dangerous." Roger stepped inside. He shouldn't care. He shouldn't care. But his voice was already saying, "What do you need me to do?" Angela finally looked up. Her eyes, always cold and unreadable, lingered on his for a beat too long. Then she handed him a tablet. "Find out who's leaking, quietly." They became a team in secret. Angela passed him files after hours. Roger combed through communication logs and metadata, cross-checking patterns and timestamps. The old version of himself, the one who coded sloppy apps for survival, reawakened like muscle memory. Angela never thanked him out loud, but one night, she brought him tea, the good kind, the kind she usually reserved for board meetings. That was her thank you. And he understood, but then came the party. Angela, as usual, was flawless in a white silk gown. Roger wore the black tux she'd had tailored for him last year, the one he never bothered to admit made him feel like someone. Austin was already there, charming the room, smiling that predatory smile. And the moment Angela stepped in, Austin didn't waste time. "You're glowing tonight, Angela," he said, touching her elbow like he owned it. "Marriage suits you." Angela gave him a neutral smile. "So does unemployment, you'll find that out soon." Austin chuckled like she was joking, but Roger noticed the flicker in his eyes. And then Roger did something stupid. He slid in next to Angela and laced his fingers through hers. "Hey babe," he whispered, just loud enough. She didn't flinch, didn't yank away. Instead, she squeezed back, just slightly. Austin's jaw twitched. That was the first time Roger liked pretending. Later that night, Angela retreated to her office again. Roger followed her. Found her staring at the window, arms folded tight. He waited. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked faintly. "He was close to my father, before he died." Roger stood frozen. "I didn't promote him because I trusted him," Angela continued. "I promoted him because I owed it to my father's legacy." "He's using that," Roger said. She nodded. Silence stretched. "I'll prove it," Roger said quietly. Angela turned to him slowly. Her mask had slipped just a little. He could see it in her eyes, something raw, something scared. And it killed him. Because in that moment, all he wanted was to pull her into his arms. But he didn't. He couldn't. Not when he wasn't even sure what they were. Rebecca called again the next day. "I saw the pictures of the gala," she said gently. "You looked happy." Roger didn't respond. "Are you okay?" she asked. He hesitated. "Rebecca, you've always been important to me." "But not in that way," she said, finishing it for him. He closed his eyes. She deserved better than half a heart. 2 nights later, Roger found a flash drive in Austin's assistant's desk, buried under fake folders. It had copies of company emails sent from an encrypted burner account. Angela had been right. Roger slammed it on her desk. Her eyes widened, just for a second. "You found it?" He nodded. "I'll terminate him tomorrow." Roger looked at her. And without thinking, asked, "Will you ever stop pretending?" Angela's lips parted. "I'm not pretending." That was all she said. But that was the first night Roger couldn't sleep. Because somewhere along the way, between the sarcasm, the schemes, and the blurred lines, he had fallen. Hard. And he didn't feel worthy of it. Not of her, not of this strange, cold woman who ran empires and hid fevers and remembered his favorite tea. She was too much. And he wasn't enough. But he also couldn't leave. Not anymore. Roger found himself pulling back, quietly, subtly, but with purpose. He didn't mean to, it just happened. He stopped texting her first in the morning, stopped responding to her late-night coffee offerings, stopped hovering in the kitchen pretending to cook just to see if she'd crack a smile. Because every time she smiled at him now, it felt too perfect, too easy. Like she knew something, like she could read the part of his brain screaming, "I think I love you." And that terrified him. Because he was still the contract husband, still the paid act, still the man who walked in 2 years ago with a duffel bag full of debt and a clownish plan to escape reality. So why did Angela start finishing his sentences? "Don't forget your tablet, already in your bag," she said one morning, not looking up from her screen. He blinked. "How did you? You always forget it when you wear that shirt," she said flatly, like it was common sense. "Okay, psychic, noted." Angela didn't even smirk. But the moment she walked past him, he caught the tiniest flicker, a smile, buried so deep it almost didn't exist. That made it worse, because he saw it. He always saw her clearly when she didn't want him to. Then there was Austin. Angela had summoned the boardroom at 9 a.m. sharp, dressed in dark slate gray, her tone unnervingly pleasant. "Austin," she said, "would you care to explain the offshore accounts under Sterling South Asia?" Austin blinked, caught like a deer. I don't know what you're talking about." Roger watched her, stunned. She already knew. He was supposed to bring her that information tonight. But somehow, she'd already planned this ambush before he ever handed her the data. Angela didn't glance at Roger once. But when Austin finally cracked, sputtering, red-faced, storming out, Angela only said, "Well, that's unfortunate," and walked out like nothing happened. Roger stared after her, jaw clenched. How long had she known? Had she let him play hero? Was this whole thing just her indulging him? That night, a headline exploded online. Angela Sterling's husband allegedly fakes degree? Anonymous source speaks out. Roger's name was everywhere. Forums, threads, slime blogs, all painting him as a con artist who married rich and coasted on a lie. His stomach turned. The accusation wasn't true, but it was close enough to sting. He waited for the PR team to bury it, for the silence. But then, Angela went on the record, at a press conference. Wearing her signature white power suit, standing beside the company logo. They asked her directly, and without blinking, she replied, "Roger Sterling is my husband. He's not only qualified, he's brilliant. He's the only reason this company is still standing." Roger sat in the back row, hidden in the shadows, stunned. Brilliant? Angela never used words like that casually. The press clapped. Roger didn't move. But that night, something inside him cracked. She found him alone in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, arms resting on the counter. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Why'd you say all that?" he asked quietly, not facing her. "Because it's true." "No." He shook his head. "You don't do public emotion. You don't say anything that isn't calculated." Angela stayed still. Roger turned, eyes bloodshot. "If you keep pretending like this, I'll start believing it's real." Silence. That was the moment everything in the room shifted. Angela didn't step closer. She didn't apologize. She just said softly, "Then maybe you should believe it." Roger stared at her, but the doorbell rang, interrupting everything. And she left the room. The next morning, Angela didn't come out of her bedroom. No emails, no calls, no breakfast notes. By afternoon, Roger knocked once, then entered. She was curled under the blankets, face flushed, hair disheveled. Fever. Again. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked, already placing a cold cloth on her forehead. "I didn't want to bother you." Roger laughed bitterly. "Bother me? Angela, you're the only reason I bother existing in this apartment." She opened her eyes, weakly. "You sound angry." "I am angry," he said, his voice low. "I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if you're acting or protecting or just being you." "I don't either," she whispered. He froze. That was the most honest thing she'd ever said. Roger sat down beside the bed. "You're sick," he muttered. "Again. I forgot my vitamins." "Liar, you never forget anything." Angela gave a weak smile. "I was distracted." "By what?" She didn't answer. Roger stayed that night. He didn't leave her side. When she shivered, he wrapped an extra blanket around her. When she stirred, he held her hand. He didn't know when she fell asleep. But he sat there watching her breathe, feeling like the biggest fool in the world. Because this wasn't pretend anymore. And he was terrified it had never been. Roger stared at her like she'd slapped him. "Say that again." Angela didn't flinch, she didn't stammer, she just looked at him with that maddening calm that always made him feel like a child playing chess with a god. "I can hear your thoughts," she said. Roger blinked. "What?" "Since the day you poured the wine, the night before the divorce signing." His heart stopped. You knew?" Angela nodded. Every muscle in Roger's body went cold. He took a step back, then another, like he was backing away from a bomb with no timer left. "You've been... this whole time, you could hear me?" "Yes." "You heard everything?" "Yes." Roger ran a hand through his hair, mouth dry. "Like, everything? Angela raised one eyebrow. "Do you want me to quote the one where you mentally ranked the board members by who looked most like a cartoon duck?" Roger groaned, nearly collapsed onto the couch. "Oh my God." He buried his face in his hands. "You heard when I called you an emotionless android?" "Yes." "And when I thought your perfume smells like future lawsuits?" Yes. And when I imagined you in that black silk robe that one time? Angela's lips twitched. Yes. Jesus Christ. Roger stood, pacing wildly. You should have told me. That's a violation. That's not just telepathy. That's relationship espionage. I didn't ask for it. That stopped him. Angela was sitting there, her usual posture perfect, but something in her face was tired. Raw. I didn't want this, she said. It's not like I could turn it off, but I heard every sarcastic dig, every plan to make me snap, every night you wondered if I even had a heart. Roger stared at her. I tried to ignore it, she said softly. I told myself it was temporary, but then, I started listening, really listening. He didn't speak. Angela looked up at him, her eyes somehow softer than he'd ever seen them. And even after all of I still fell for you. Roger's knees nearly buckled. He sat down like the air had been stolen from the room. You're serious? Angela didn't respond. You, after all the garbage I thought? After all the messed up, insecure, lazy stuff in my head? Especially after that. You're insane. Angela let out a breath that could have been a laugh or a sigh. Probably. Roger leaned back, staring at the ceiling. This is a dream. I died. I choked on a grape or something, and now I'm in some messed up rom-com purgatory. Angela stood. Where are you going? Work. Roger scoffed. Now? After emotionally nuking me? But she wasn't listening. Her phone had buzzed once, then again, then a third time, non-stop. Roger saw her face change. Angela walked to the window, her spine going stiff, her voice steel. When? Pause. Who? Pause. Damage report, now. She turned sharply, snapping at him like they were strangers again. Call Marcus, tell him not to say a word to media. I want silence until I review the actual files. Roger blinked. Wait, what? Austin just staged a mass resignation. His faction walked out, marketing, analytics, most of RD, and they leaked fake fraud reports to the public exchange. Roger's stomach dropped. Angela. They're claiming internal embezzlement, saying I covered it up, that the company's been bleeding money under my direction. Roger's mind spun. But that's false, right? That's all fake. They fabricated spreadsheets. It looks real. Angela grabbed her blazer with trembling fingers. The Liu Corporation stock is crashing. Will be investigated by the Financial Integrity Bureau by morning. Roger stood. Angela met his eyes, and for the first time, she looked terrified. I need your help, she said. Roger nodded. Then let's go. Together. The press conference was a circus. Flashes, microphones, executives whispering behind diamond water glasses, 1,000 eyes locked on the same stage where empires were buried and rebuilt. Roger adjusted his tie backstage. He wasn't supposed to be here. This wasn't his world. He was a failed freelancer, a glorified stand-in, a guy who once Googled how to cook rice without water. And yet here he was, about to walk into the fire. Angela stood beside him, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Her makeup was perfect, but the tension in her shoulders betrayed her nerves. Austin stood at the podium, smirking. He wore betrayal like cologne, obvious, overpowering. The Liu Corporation must be held accountable, he was saying, faux righteous. Under Angela's leadership, numerous internal discrepancies were. Angela's hand gripped Roger's wrist. He met her eyes. Ready? She whispered. He gave her the stupidest grin he could muster. Born to crash press conferences. They stepped out together. The silence that hit the room could have shattered glass. Austin blinked. Angela? Angela took the mic. Roger stood to the side, but his glare was pinned on the smirking woman next to Austin. Rebecca, soft-spoken, nostalgic, pretended to be from his past. Angela had found the receipts 2 days ago. Rebecca was on Austin's payroll. Her mission had been simple: get close to Roger, feed intel, stir jealousy. I want to address the allegations, Angela said calmly, voice like steel wrapped in silk. But first, a confession. Every camera tilted forward. Roger's heart pounded. I made a mistake, she said. 2 years ago, I entered into a contract marriage. I believed emotions were inefficient, that love was a weakness. I thought a fake husband would be easier than a real one. Gasps. My board knew, my legal team knew, but I never told the public because I believed I'd never need to. Angela Ned, her eyes, brighter than stage lights, locked on Roger. But then I made another mistake. The crowd leaned in. Roger felt his pulse in his teeth. I fell for him. Dead silence. He was supposed to sabotage me. He tried. God, he tried. A soft laugh. The clingy texts, the fake fights, the whine. Whispers rippled across the room. Roger's stomach dropped. She was outing everything. He hated the contract, and I heard every thought in his head, every insult, every joke, every time he doubted himself. But even through all of that, I kept listening. Angela stepped aside. Roger. He blinked. She was handing him the mic. In front of 1,000 people, executives, her parents, the board, Makoto, the press-hungry CEO rival licking his lips at the scandal, Rebecca and Austin's smug grins. He stepped forward, then he took the mic, and did the stupidest thing imaginable. My name is Roger Lynn, he said, and I'm the mistake. Gasps again, Angela's eyes widened. Roger smiled. She didn't trick me. I took the money. I agreed. I wanted to play husband for 2 years so I could freeload and walk out rich. She never lied. I did. He looked at Makoto. You want someone to blame? Blame me. At Angela's parents. You want to protect your daughter's reputation? Then crucify me. He looked at Angela last. You want to save the company? Burn my name and walk out clean. The cameras went mad. But Angela, she didn't let him finish. She walked to him, grabbed his hand, spun him toward her, and kissed him. Right there on stage, no contract, no clause, no script, just her lips on his, quieting every accusation. The crowd gasped, reporters exploded in questions, but Angela ignored them all. She grabbed the mic again. This is my husband, she said clearly. Not a contract, not a placeholder, not a PR stunt, my choice. Silence. Even Austin looked stunned. Angela turned toward him. And as for the embezzlement, I hope you saved the fake report's metadata timestamps. We traced them, all backdated on your office drive. Austin paled. And Rebecca? The woman flinched. Angela smiled. Next time you plant someone to seduce my husband, make sure they're not afraid of dogs. He doesn't date anyone who hates his golden retriever. Laughter from the press. The momentum had shifted. Angela turned once more to Roger. I'm not asking you to stay because of the company, she said, eyes brimming, or because of a contract. I'm asking because I want to try again, for real this time. Roger, dazed, laughed softly, then held her hand. I'd be an idiot to say no. She smiled. You are an idiot. And you love me anyway. Unfortunately. And as the cameras kept flashing, Roger realized something. He didn't care about the money. He didn't care about the exposure. He didn't care who knew, because for the first time, this wasn't pretend, it was real, and that was more terrifying than anything else. The ceremonial bonfire crackled softly in the center of the Liu Corporation's rooftop garden. Angela stood in a sleek, midnight blue silk dress, CEO elegance softened by the way her fingers were laced tightly through Roger's. In front of them, resting on a black velvet cushion, was a crisp white folder. Their marriage contract. The one that had started it all. The one that once defined every line of their relationship. How to behave, what to say, when to exit. Now, it was just paper. A relic. I printed it again, just to burn it, Roger whispered, amused. Angela smiled. Symbolism matters. My board eats that stuff up. Behind them, the small audience of close friends, board members, and company staff held champagne flutes. Cameras were not allowed. Angela insisted this moment was private. Roger held the folder, stepped forward, and tossed it into the flames. It caught instantly, years of tension, boundaries, and secrets curling into ash. He turned back to Angela. She stepped into him. And the applause faded beneath the way she touched his face, like she still couldn't believe he stayed. Because now they weren't married by force, or image, or money. Now they were choosing each other. 3 months later, Roger had become surprisingly useful. The man who once Googled how to cook eggs in a toaster was now advising Angela's innovation division on digital strategy. His chaotic creativity paired well with her laser focus. We should name the AI platform something fun, he said one day in a board meeting. Like Auntie Lou, make it feel human. Angela pinched the bridge of her nose. We are not naming a multi-million-dollar product, Auntie Lou. Think about it, he grinned. She gives advice, she nags, she remembers everything, she's already your aunt. The board actually laughed. Later, in her office, Angela threw a pen at him. Stop being so charming in front of my team. They're starting to like you. I'm their auntie-in-law now. Respect the hierarchy. She rolled her eyes and kissed him anyway. At home, their life was something simpler. Soft lighting, take-out boxes, Angela in oversized sleep shirts, Roger barefoot, pacing around the kitchen giving dramatic monologues to the dog. Sir barks a lot. Why must your gaze judge me when I eat the last dumpling? Angela leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Because that was my dumpling. He blinked. You weren't even home. I was thinking about it. Angela. Roger. They stared at each other. The tension crackled. Then she lunged and he ran, dumpling in hand, until she tackled him on the couch and stole a bite from his mouth mid-kiss. Sometimes, the past came back in flickers. Roger still had moments of doubt, walking into a corporate gala on Angela's arm, feeling like everyone was watching her, not them. He'd catch glimpses of Rebecca in headlines or hear whispers about Austin's trial. But then Angela would pull him into a dance without warning. Or defend his opinion during a pitch. Or lean on his shoulder and say, I couldn't have done any of this without you. And the insecurity would fade, because he wasn't a placeholder anymore. He was hers. One rainy night. The storm was soft but steady, tapping against the windows like a lullaby. Angela was curled against Roger's chest in bed, her breath warm on his skin, their legs tangled, like the world beyond the sheets didn't exist. Roger traced idle circles on her back. Hey, she murmured, voice half asleep. Angela shifted up on one elbow, looking at him with quiet mischief. I can't hear your thoughts anymore. He blinked. What? Not since the contract ended. Not since I said I loved you, and meant it. Silence. Rain fell harder. Angela studied his face. I don't know why it stopped. Maybe I don't need to hear them now, she whispered. Maybe I trust you enough not to. Roger smiled slowly, his fingers brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Then I guess you'll just have to ask. She raised an eyebrow. Ask what? What I'm thinking. Angela tilted her head. Okay. What are you thinking right now? Roger rolled on top of her gently, arms bracketing her head, eyes dark with emotion, but smiling. I'm thinking, he whispered, I've loved you longer than I admitted, that I thought you'd never choose me, not really, but now that you have, I'm never letting go. Angela's breath caught. Also, he added, lips brushing hers, you look really hot when you threaten people in board meetings. She laughed into his mouth. You're a menace. And you married me anyway. No, she whispered. You chose me. He kissed her then, slow and deep and warm like home. Outside, the storm passed. Inside, they built something stronger. Epilogue. A new contract sat on their desk. Not a marriage one. A joint venture. Roger and Angela co-signing a consulting initiative that combined her resources and his ideas. Angela read the last page. Clause 34, I get the last dumpling. Roger crossed it. Out. Clause 35, no mind reading ever again. She crossed it out. Clause 36. Angela pulled him close. Let's stop making contracts, she said, smiling against his lips. Let's just make a life. He nodded. Deal. And this time, they sealed it with love.